Somewhere beneath Eastern Europe, a place has been sealed from the outside world for 5.5 million years. No sunlight has ever reached it. The air inside can kill you. Yet when researchers broke through in 1986, they found life, dozens of species thriving in total darkness, powered entirely by chemistry instead of the sun. This is Movile Cave, and science still cannot explain it. This subterranean labyrinth, located near Romania's Black Sea coast, functions as a completely closed biosphere. A thick, heavy layer of clay isolates the cavern from any rain, wind, or surface soil, effectively keeping it locked away from the rest of Earth. Because no light penetrates this barrier, the food chain does not rely on plants converting sunlight. Instead, the entire system survives on a process called chemosynthesis, using toxic ground gases to generate energy. It operates like an alien world buried right under our feet, raising a massive question: how did life even begin here? On May 23, 1986, workers drilling geophysical test shafts near Mangalia hit an unexpected void 18 meters below the surface. Geologist Cristian Lascu descended the narrow shaft first, soon joined by Stefan Sarbu and Radu Popa. They immediately encountered a suffocating warm atmosphere that reeked of rotten eggs. Their instruments registered oxygen levels below 10%, while carbon dioxide choked the chambers at levels 100 times higher than the surface. This was a sealed, toxic world, completely hostile to human lungs. Because of the extreme physical danger and the scientific fragility of this untouched pocket, authorities quickly installed an airtight, double-locked steel gate over the shaft. Access was strictly capped to just a few research teams per year, who had to wear full-face respirators and limit their stays to less than 3 hours. The metal hatch was locked, but the mystery inside was only beginning. How could any living creature survive in an environment where the very air is a poison? The bedrock of the Dobrogia limestone platform holds the key to how this isolation began. Unlike typical caves carved by descending rainwater, this system was forged from the bottom up. Deep underground, pressurized thermal groundwater saturated with hydrogen sulfide rose through ancient fractures in the stone. When this sulfidic water met oxygenated groundwater, the chemical reaction produced highly concentrated sulfuric acid. This corrosive acid aggressively dissolved the limestone, hollow carving a maze of horizontal voids through a process known as sulfuric acid speleogenesis. Then the connection to the surface was permanently severed. Approximately 5.5 million years ago, shifting sea levels and geological changes deposited a thick mantle of clay and sediment over the region, capping the chambers. This heavy barrier blocked all surface water and trapped the local groundwater system, ending any exchange with the atmosphere. Flowstone caps dated to this era confirm that no fresh water has penetrated the cavern since the Miocene. For over 5 million years, this dark pocket remained completely untouched, bypassing the ice ages and massive evolutionary shifts occurring on the surface. It became a chemically engineered vault of planetary history, preserved in absolute isolation. But this complete separation creates a profound paradox. If the cave was entirely cut off from the solar-driven energy of the outside world, what became the engine that kept this subterranean system alive? The air inside this sealed pocket is a heavy, stagnant poison. Human lungs require 21% oxygen to survive, but here those levels drop to a suffocating 7 to 10%. In its place, carbon dioxide chokes the passages at concentrations 100 times higher than on the surface, mixed with volatile plumes of methane and toxic hydrogen sulfide. This harsh gas mixture remains trapped under a constant, oppressive climate. The temperature never moves from a muggy 21 degrees Celsius, while the humidity hangs permanently above 95%, with absolutely no wind to stir the darkness. Yet the strangest physical feature is what is missing from these underground walls. Unlike typical limestone caverns decorated with stalactites and stalagmites, these winding passages are completely barren. The extreme chemistry of this environment works in reverse. The acidic moisture in the air prevents decorative minerals from ever forming. Instead, sulfuric acid vapors actively dissolve the bedrock, slowly corroding the stone rather than building it up, leaving only bare, wet rock. Floating on the surface of the toxic pools are thick, rubbery mats of pale slime. These living sheets of bacteria, dominated by massive populations of sulfur-oxidizing thiovolum form the sole foundation of life here. Without a single photon of sunlight, these microbes harvest energy from hydrogen sulfide and methane, serving as the biological equivalent of grass. Living directly on this chemical pasture is a bizarre community of highly specialized invertebrates. Millennia of absolute darkness have stripped these creatures of their useless traits. They are completely blind and lack any pigment, rendering their bodies ghostly white or semi-transparent. Instead of sight, they feel their way forward with hyper-extended antennae, elongated limbs, and specialized mechanosensory pits that detect the slightest vibrations in the stagnant water and air. To the surprise of researchers, this toxic pocket sustained far more than simple bacteria. It supported a fully functioning, multi-tiered ecological pyramid. Blind Nephargus amphipods and tiny snails grazed directly on the bacterial mats, their tissues sharing the exact isotopic signature of the sulfur oxidizing microbes. Spiders and predatory leeches hunt those grazers. At the very top of this closed food chain sits Cryptops speleorex, a blind, venomous centipede that rules this subterranean world. It is a complete, self-sustaining web of life, surviving in absolute isolation, entirely powered by poison. The locked steel hatch seals in unresolved scientific disputes. While uranium-thorium dating points to an isolation period of 5.5 million years, other geological data suggest the clay barrier formed much later, perhaps only 2.5 million years ago. This timeline conflict leaves the evolutionary clock of the entire ecosystem unsettled. Beyond the cave's age, researchers suspect they have only scratched the surface of its biology. Genetic sequencing continues to pull unknown DNA signatures from the water, hinting at thousands of undiscovered microbes and potentially larger undescribed organisms hiding in unsurveyed flooded passages. The exact loops of carbon and nitrogen cycling remain incomplete, leaving scientists unable to explain how this fragile web maintains perfect stability over epochs. The ultimate mystery is no longer whether life can exist in the dark, but how much of this hidden world remains completely invisible. Shotgun metagenomics and single-cell sequencing bypass the limitations of human sight, pulling thousands of raw genetic codes directly from the water, exposing vast microbial communities invisible to the naked eye. Among these blueprints, researchers identified specialized methylamine-using microbes, which act as a chemical shuttle, moving carbon and nitrogen through the pitch-black system. But the dominant sulfur-oxidizing strain, thiovolum, shows unusual metabolic flexibility, switching its chemical pathways on demand depending entirely on fluctuating oxygen levels. Even more bizarre, geneticists uncovered candidate phyla like Ptacibacteria carrying genes identical to organisms found at deep-sea hydrothermal vents thousands of miles away, indicating an ancient horizontal gene exchange with entirely different ecosystems across the globe. This new data does not close the case. It proves this dark pocket is a highly complex chemical engine, raising an even bigger question about where these life forms truly originated. Movile Cave provides a physical template for life sustained entirely without a sun. This subterranean pocket shifts how we evaluate other worlds, serving as a direct terrestrial analog for the dark, pressurized subsurface oceans of Europa and Enceladus. If microbes thrive in this isolated Romanian aquifer, the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn become primary targets for finding active biology. The cave forces us to reconsider what makes a planet habitable. But this biological archive is fragile because a single drop of surface contamination could destroy millions of years of evolutionary history. This dark world must remain strictly locked. We search the stars for alien life, yet its blueprint lies sealed beneath our feet. If biology can thrive in this toxic darkness, the frozen oceans of distant moons are likely teeming with secrets. The cosmos is closer than we think. Subscribe for more deep mysteries.